So in today's video, we are going to be grading the Chiefs free agent signings and just their free agency as a whole. Now, I know we're only a week into free agency and big moves can still happen, but I think it would be a fun discussion point. But before we get into the video, please consider liking and subscribing, and let's jump right into the video. Now, as I mentioned to start the video, I know we're only a week into free agency. The Chiefs still have plenty of time to make some big moves, and obviously for the whole offseason, there's still the draft to come up. But a week into free agency, I wanted to discuss how I think the Kansas City Chiefs are doing. And so today I wanted to give my letter grade of what I would give them through this first week of free agency. And if I were to grade the Chiefs free agency so far, I would be giving them a B. Now, some people might give them a lower grade. I don't think anybody would really give them a higher grade, but I'm sure a lot of people would give them a lower grade. But at the same time, you have to understand, like, some of these people on TV, I don't think they fully understand the structure of this Chiefs team and what the Chiefs truly need. Like, yes, the Chiefs they need help at multiple positions, but usually with the Chiefs, it's only a couple of guys here or there that they really and truly need help with. It's not a complete mess that the Chiefs are in. The Chiefs literally have just a few issues that they had to solve, and I think they did a fairly solid job so far of solving at least a couple of the issues. So the Chiefs' notable free agent signings so far this offseason and during this free agency period were adding JuJu Smith-Schuster and signing Justin Reid. Now, just those two guys alone, as I mentioned, definitely helps with a couple of the issues that the Kansas City Chiefs had going into the offseason already. Let's look at JuJu first. JuJu brings a whole bunch to this Kansas City Chiefs offense that they've been lacking since Sammy Watkins left. So to go out there, get that wide receiver too that they desperately have needed for quite a while, because the makeup of Demarcus Robinson, McCole Hardman, and Byron Pringle, quite frankly, aren't quite wide receiver 2 material. I would love to have them as the third option, and we still have Hardman as a third option for sure, along with possibly Josh Gordon. Now that Juju's there, maybe Josh Gordon can get a little bit more involved in the offense. And so JuJu does a lot for this offense. I've talked about this already a couple times. He does a tremendous amount of help for this offense. It's going to take a lot of stress off of Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. Those two guys aren't going to be the focal point of the offense every single play, every offensive series. So now taking the stress off of those two guys is going to help them out. They may become even more deadly and dangerous than they already are as a duo, and I'm fully happy to see that, because teams aren't going to be able to double them every single play, and it's going to be very nice to see that. And it's also going to help, I think, McCole Hardman get a little bit more involved in the offense too, because now you're going to have the defenses. They're going to be focused on trying to stop Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and then they're going to forget about JuJu and McCole Hardman, because those two guys are still going to worry them. There's a whole bunch of different options that the Chiefs have now that they have JuJu there, and it's not just opening up other guys. You have the individual talent that JuJu brings to the Chiefs offense. He brings another receiver that has deep threat ability. He's great in the middle of the field. He can dominate 50-50 balls. He can run after the catch. Like, we have attributes now of JuJu that are just going to make this offense, I think, much more explosive. And as I mentioned, they finally got that wide receiver too. So JuJu's signing, I love it, and I think it helps the offense. And then you have Justin Reid signing, which again, it's another signing that I'm personally a huge fan of. Now, it fills a hole that the Chiefs were going to have with Tyrann Mathieu hitting free agency and not coming back to the team. And while you're never going to be able to fully replace Tyrann Mathieu and his talent on the field, I think Justin Reid is more than plenty talented to be impactful, have a huge impact for this defense. I love the signing. I love what Justin Reid brings to this team. And I saw his introductory interview. I saw a whole bunch of questions being asked about him. He seems like a genuinely nice guy, a guy that's willing to work, willing to put in all the hard work and effort, and that's all you can love. And for the Chiefs' secondary issue, while they still have issues in the secondary, which we'll discuss here in a little bit, that secondary spot at safety, to be specific, is finally a hole that is filled. So now you have Juan Thornhill and Justin Reid. They have the starters at least figured out. They still need depth, obviously, at the position, but when it comes to the starters aspect of it, they have that figured out. And then you have the attributes that Justin Reid can bring to this defense. He's great in coverage. I saw some of his highlights. I was watching some of his plays that he made. He's very good in coverage. He makes plays around the ball. I saw him forcing some turnovers. He's constantly, causing turnovers, which is something that you always love as a defense. That'll also help out your offense. and then he can come up and make very impactful plays, whether he's the last line of defense or he's coming up to the line of scrimmage. Justin Reid makes some very impactful plays. So as a whole, when it comes to the secondary for Brett Veach and needing to rebuild that secondary, a lot of stress is taken off of Brett Veach right now, secondary-wise, now that he has Justin Reid there, because you have Justin Reid, Juan Thornhill, Jarius Sneed, and Rashad Fenton as your 4 starters. And if those guys are my 4 starters on any given Sunday, I'm not necessarily worried about it. That secondary is fairly solid, and you know Brett Veach is going to go big in the draft. There's that guy out of Michigan. I love him. He's Jarius Sneed 2.0, and having 2 of them on a defense, I would love. So when it comes to the 2 signings, I give it a B. But where are the issues that still lie? Because there are still major issues that the Chiefs have. Because if the Chiefs would address one issue right now, even if the Chiefs didn't go after a cornerback, primary corner, which they still don't have, but again, I don't think that's the main focus of this entire team right now. Yes, the Chiefs don't have a primary corner, but the one thing that they have done nothing whatsoever is the defensive line. If they would have signed JuJu, got Justin Reid, and improved the defensive line, I probably could have put aside the fact that the secondary didn't get any focus, mainly at corner, and I could have been perfectly happy with the situation that the Chiefs are in right now. Because if the only thing you're lacking is a primary corner, I think the Chiefs are in a very solid spot. I wouldn't be bugging so much. But the fact that they haven't done anything when it comes to the defensive line is where I'm getting a little bit worried. I know we're only in a weekend. I know we still have the draft, and I know there's still time for big moves to be made. But a weekend, and you had like Zadarius Smith seems like the only guy that the Chiefs really have a chance of even getting right now. There's Hunter out of Michigan or Minnesota that I think would be a huge pickup. I would love him on the team, but they just haven't made that big move on defensive line yet. They've re-signed Noddy, they restructured Frank Clark's contract, and that's about the only thing that they've really done on that defensive line. And bringing back this defensive line, who ranked 28th in sacks last year, only had 31 sacks, it's not going to be fun, because I mentioned earlier that if the secondary stays the same and the defensive line improves, I wouldn't be too worried. But now you're putting a whole bunch of stress on this secondary to make them be in coverage 24/7, the entire time. You're making them stay in coverage for 10 seconds at a time. And this secondary, as much as I love them, I love the guys that we have in the secondary. I think people sleep on them. I tweeted that out a while ago. I think people are sleeping on the talent that we have in the secondary right now. But I don't care. I've mentioned this before. I don't care if you have the Legion of Boom, Deion Sanders, the best secondary players in NFL history. You don't have a pass rush, nobody's going to thrive. Nobody. And so the biggest hit to this defense is the defensive line right now, and it's affecting every single unit right now, because the Chiefs can't bring back this same defensive line unit and expect to have success on defense, and especially not the way that these teams in the AFC West are just going all out. You have the Chargers, they extended Mike Williams, so their offense, they still have pieces around their offense to be explosive and good. The Raiders just freaking got Devontae Adams. The Broncos, who I've always said were a quarterback away, they got now their quarterback with all those great young receivers and a great running game. So this defensive line, when it comes to the division, is gonna struggle if Brett Veach doesn't make a move soon. But again, I don't want to worry, because we're only a week in, and this was kind of just a discussion starter to talk a little bit more about the Chiefs and see what they've done. I would give it a B. Again, if honestly, as I've mentioned, the secondary isn't the biggest worry now that Justin Reid is there. If Justin Reid never signed and the Chiefs never got another safety to replace Tyrann Mathieu, this Chiefs team would be a disaster right now. JuJu would come in fine. That's, we would be thrilled that the offense got better. I honestly, if it was just JuJu that was signed right now, I think you could make a huge argument that the Chiefs deserve a D grade. But I think what they've done in the secondary, adding Justin Reid, taking some stress off of Brett Veach and needing to improve the secondary. Obviously, the linebacking core is perfect, solid. Willie Gay, Nick Bolton, perfect. I love those two guys, what they bring. Obviously, they're going to have to bring in probably draft to add a little bit of depth there, but that's how it always goes. Offensive line still perfect from last year. What Brett Veach did, but that was masterful. They added a wide receiver too, and then they still got Patrick Mahomes. So I know that in free agency we like to overreact to what teams need, but you also have to understand what the Chiefs brought back. The Chiefs brought back the trio of Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill. They still have Chris Jones on that team. They filled that hole at secondary already. So I don't think we need to overreact. I think a B is a perfectly fair grade to give the Kansas City Chiefs and their offseason and their free agency so far.